Hi, this is Sarah again with Action Enforcer Pro. Welcome to our advanced tutorial series, and in this part of the tutorial we're going to be talking about creating and managing actions in more detail. Actions, or things you want to accomplish, are essential elements to using Action Enforcer Pro. There are two types of actions you can create as a review: one-time actions and repeated actions. One-time actions are just as the name implies. Actions you'll likely only need to do once. These could be things like creating an eBay auction or fixing a leaky faucet or something similar. Repeated actions are, like the name sounds as well, things that you do on a more regular basis, something that you want to be able to save and reference and reuse again in order to increase your efficiency where you don't have to type things out. Let's first start with diving into these one-time actions and the format for actually creating one. The trigger that tells Action Enforcer Pro that what you're entering up here in the Add an Action box is a one-time action is that you start it with the time. Then you have a space, and then you're going to have the name of the action. So if we wanted to do 20 minutes for an eBay auction, we would simply type in 20 space eBay auction. And again, this 20 minutes is the trigger that's going to say to Action Enforcer Pro, aha, you don't want it to be added down here to one of your action lists. You just want it over here into your current activated timer group, and you're just going to use this for today. So don't save it. Just create one, and then once we push delete, it's gone for good. If we didn't include this 20, then it would automatically add it to whatever your activated or current action list is down here. Right now we have it as the default one, but we have 50 custom action lists that you can create, and we'll get more into that with repeated actions here in a second. Another thing you can do when you're adding an action for the first time is you can automatically assign a priority to it without having to go over here and manually doing it after the fact. What is the format? The format is you're simply adding either 1 asterisk, 2 asterisks, or 3 asterisks in between the time and the name of the action. So the format would be time, priority, action, with a space in between the time and the priority and the action. So it would be 20. If we wanted this to be a high priority, we would add 3 asterisks and then a space. We push return, and you can see that it is activated as a red high priority. The yellow means low, and this orange would be medium. Now, creating these priority tags are totally optional. The only two essential elements to create an action with a timer is the action name and the timer. So if you want to add the priority, that's totally optional. However, it is important to note that you do need to follow this order exactly. Time, space, priority, space, action. You can't put the time after the action or move this priority to after the action. You can leave it out, you just can't change the order. The other optional thing that you can do is to create a note for the action. And there are some formatting tags that are supported by these notes. You can bold items, you can use italics, underline, numbered lists, bullet lists, list items, and links. These are included in your user manual, so you don't have to write these down. They are there for your reference. How do you include these tags, and what is a note, and what would be the purpose of them? Notes are simply things that you want to attach to that item for easy reference. So you can include links to outside sites, to YouTube videos. The sky is really the limit here, and it saves you from having to have post-it notes and loose paper all around. You can easily organize everything that you would possibly use as a reference in doing that item. And this is really useful for items that you do on a regular basis. You might include swipe files. If you're writing a sales copy, you could have links to swipe files or competitor products for easy reference there. So again, sky is the limit. And how do you use these bold tags or other HTML tags? Here's a quick example to show you how you would use a tag in the notes. So I put client proposal in, and then I just entered some of the notes that I wanted to remind myself of when going through a client proposal that I wanted to start with researching the client, and I wanted this as a heading for the sub items, looking at your competitors, customers, pricing, product offering, etc. This is an example of an HTML tag. It starts with an opening tag. Here is the B, which means bold, and then you need a closing tag. And anything in between this opening and closing bold tag will be bolded. It will have that action applied to it. Once we're finished, and by the way, I don't really fool with the numbered lists or bulleted lists. I just go ahead and use a little minus sign space and then list the items. It's just faster for me. But you can choose to use the tags over here if you wish. So you can either push the plus sign or enter and then activate that item. Now, because I didn't have the number in front of it, it put it down here into the current activated action list. So we'd have to go over here if we wanted to use that right away and select how many minutes, click on it, and now it's activated it into our timer group that we have over here on the right. And we have 12 timers that we can create for that specific timer group. If we want to look at the notes we just created, we just roll over that item and you can see it activates it to the upper left. Another way that you can create an action without actually typing it in is to use this little icon down here, this little almost like play button, and this is called the action panel. You'll notice it follows the same format that we were using: time, and then the priority, and then a description of the action. In this case, it's going to help you by creating a verb, and then you can then type in something that describes what you want to do after that, and I will show you an example here in a second. The important point to note, though, again, is you must follow this sequence exactly: time, priority, and then a description of the action with a space in between. You can leave out the priority, you can leave out the time, but you need to use that same format if you want to incorporate them. To use the action panel, we're going to just roll over the little play icon, the little slider down here, select the time, select the priority if we want it. Again, this is optional. And then let's say we're going to prepare, and then we're going to just say invoice. So we are just using this as a shorthand way, another way of maybe saving ourselves some time and making it very simple to use. And then we just push plus or return to add that item to our timer group. And because we put a time in, it added it to the timer group, and it didn't add it down here to our saved actions. Speaking of saved actions, that brings us to the second type of actions, which is repeated actions. And this is really one of the areas that Action Enforcer Pro shines, because most of the things that you do, you probably do on a regular basis or at least semi-regular basis, and then having to type everything in for the first time and going through that process we just showed you wouldn't be very efficient, which is kind of the opposite of things you want from a productivity tool. So built into Action Enforcer Pro is a way to easily organize repetitive items into what are called action lists. And action lists are simply a collection of actions that are related to each other in some way. And that some way is really up to you to define it. It's as flexible as you want it to be. You have 50 different lists that you can customize and create into things that make sense for you. You could organize these by days of the week, by certain types of projects, for phases of your business cycle. Really, you can use as much creativity as you want to define what a list is for you. But the beauty here is that you can create this for your specific purpose. You can save a collection of actions you need to do that are related to that, let's say, Monday. And everything that you do on Monday, you can create in a custom list. And then you can simply activate that list, set the times that you want to have allocated to each one of those items, and boom, you're off and running. So really getting this fired up for a day of the week or a certain type of project or phase of the business cycle, whatever it is, can be really, really fast. And now Action Enforcer Pro can be something that saves you enormous amounts of time, keeps you focused with very minimal effort in getting it up and running. So this is really the exciting part, and I'm excited to get into showing you how you would create one of these and get going as quickly as possible. So the first thing that we want to point out with creating these repetitive lists and saving them into an action list is that you have this default list down here, and this is a default list that you can pull from, and it's a generic one. It covers a lot of the things that you might see on a regular basis, but they're not really specific to any type of business or for you personally. You can go ahead and just use this and be totally fine and customize it for your needs, or you can start from scratch and create a new list, and that's what we'll show you how to do. So we want to click on that custom list, and if we want to rename it, we just click on that little icon that I just clicked on to the right. We highlight it, and let's say we want to create an action list of all the things we commonly do on Monday morning. I just typed Monday in, push OK. Now we have a new action list, and it's blank because we don't have any of those default items in there. So we are starting from a blank slate. Now let's begin adding actions to our Monday action list. We go up here to add an action like we were doing before, but now because we want to add it to the action list, we are not going to include a time. So we'll simply type in something like check email, and then we can push return or the plus sign, and it will add it down here. We did not include the time for two reasons. One, we wanted to tell Action Enforcer Pro to add it to our action list, and two, because we are adding it to our action list, we don't include a time because we can change this time each time we use it. So we don't want a default time. We want to be able to change it for that specific day in question. And this will make more sense in a moment. Remember, you can add action notes, and if you add action notes to repeated items, they will be saved with it and will remain with that item, so it'll be a handy note that you can use over and over again. We keep repeating this process until we have all of the items that we want associated with that action list, and we can always go back and add more later. So let's just create a few more here for our example purposes. So we have check email, create invoice, maybe plan day, success routine. So we might do our daily success routine. So we have 4 different items that we have in our Monday action list. Now we're going to go through the process of creating a timer for this and putting it over here into our timer group, which is really our productivity chunks for the day. That's what we're going to get done and make sure that we're only focused on the current productivity block until all of them are complete, and hopefully we get all those green check marks and the reward of knowing that we stayed focused and we're ultra productive. So how do we create these timers and activate them so they're in our current timer group? In our repeated actions, what we do is we hover over the action item that we want to activate, and then we just simply drag our cursor over this blue bar that appears until we are over the amount of minutes that we want to allocate to our success routine. Let's say we're going to allocate 15 minutes to our success routine. We then just click our mouse, and there we go. We now have a timer in our timer group. And we repeat this process for all of the activities that we want to activate for that day. So there we go. We have our success routine, plan day, create invoices, and check email all in our timer group. These are our productivity chunks. The goal is to stay only focused on that activity when we push this go button. So how do we get started? Well, we simply press the Action Enforcer Pro action button here, and we will have that 15 minutes automatically starting counting down, and we have that little ticking noise, and we'll go over how you can adjust that. I personally like to have this at a minimum level because it reminds me I'm on the clock. It's that subtle little reminder to keep me focused. If we want to stop that, we just push pause, and now we are taking a break. Maybe somebody just called us or got interrupted, so we don't want to keep that active. We can push pause. We also have this break timer that will automatically push pause for any active timers. If we want to link these, we use this little link symbol, And when this timer is complete, the next one will automatically start. We don't have to use that, but it is there as a handy tool if you would like to take advantage of it. Otherwise, we just manually go to the next item. We can rearrange the timers by clicking this little empty square, and it will bring up this symbol here, which means we're going to swap it out. So if I want maybe to plan my day first before I do my daily success routine, I would just select the second item there, and now plan the day as first, success routine is second. This means nothing to Action Enforcer Pro, the order that they're in. However, it might be a good organizational tool for you to keep it in a linear fashion. And if you're going to use this link timers option, if you have them in the right order, it will go from left to right and then down, across, down, across, and so forth. So if you are going to use the link timer, you want to put them in the right order. And also, again, it's just a good organizational tool for you. Let's go over a few more advanced points on managing actions before we wrap this section up of our advanced tutorial series. First thing I'd like to note in these final few points is that you'll see this do daily success routine down here. And this pops up no matter which list you switch to. Why? Because it's that important. So it's automatically embedded into Action Enforcer Pro for each of those 50 lists. You can activate that daily success routine by just clicking on 15, 20, 25 minutes, all the way up to an hour. You'll see that it automatically puts a high priority because it's saying to you, this is something you absolutely need to do every day. Successful people, some of the things that they have in common: number one, they do a daily success routine, and two, they plan their day. So you want to make sure you get in a habit of doing something that is meaningful to you, that you think will help you be successful. There's some notes in here. If you double click down here below the title of that action list, it'll bring up the entire list of the notes, and you can customize this now by just editing this, and you can edit it by clicking this little edit icon, but you can customize this to fit your needs. But this is a good starting point. If we click on this edit icon, this also gives you an example of some of those advanced HTML tags. If you wish to use this as an example, it shows you how to incorporate the list feature, and we can just cancel out of here. If you want to get to the notes area for other items that you have down here in your action list, if you just scroll over the item, you can see a synopsis up above. But if you do Control click if you have a PC, or Command left click if you have a Mac, it will actually pull up the entire notes area, and to exit out of there, you just hit this little exit button. You can also double click down here, as I said, and it will bring up the entire notes area for you to view. And again, doing this daily success routine consistently is extremely important. Excellence isn't the result of one or two things you do every now and again. Excellence is the result of your habits, what you think about and feel on a regular daily basis. We've already shown you how to edit the name of an action list by clicking on this little box to the right of the name, but let's go into some other things that you can do. This little magnifying glass here lets you search across all of your action lists. So let's click on that search bar and type in success, and you'll see it brings up success routine, and we could do that for just about anything and see if we have a match. So that's really a handy tool if you're trying to find something that you created before and you want to use it, but you weren't sure which list you put it in. So that's a definite time saver, and let's just exit out of there. The other thing you can do is you can load up lists that maybe somebody else created that also uses Action Enforcer Pro, and you can load that up and use it for your own purposes. Or maybe you created a backup copy, which using this copy feature, and you want to reload it. For Macintosh users, you need to know the full directory path or URL. So up here you can see where I have Action Enforcer Pro on my computer is Macintosh HD applications and so forth. But maybe I have something that's like Macintosh HD underneath my downloads folder, Action Enforcer Pro, Sarah's action list, which maybe I got from somebody else that I know that's named Sarah, and I want to upload it there. You can click on the copy feature to copy the current action list. And if you are using a Windows computer, you will simply have a dialog box that shows up that says save, and you can go from there. If you're a Macintosh user like I am, you have a little additional step, which is pretty minor. You just push copy, and it's going to copy it to the clipboard, and then you're going to paste it into a text file like I have here. So you would just simply do copy and paste and then save this text file. Then you have the same text file that you would have had if you had a Windows computer, which does that one little step for you. If you want to clear your current action list, you push clear. Now that can't be undone, so use that with care. If you push restart default, that'll bring in that initial default list, and that could be a good starting point, for instance, if you wanted to have all those and just delete out the ones you didn't want to use, but you at least have maybe a good portion that you want to retain. If you want to edit a specific item within your action list, you click on it, and you'll see that it's gray highlighted, and when you have that item highlighted, you have some options of moving that item down or up within the list. You can click edit, and you can edit the notes right there. And if you select an item and then push this little copy symbol, these two little circles, that will copy that particular action and create a new action from it that you can edit. So it creates a starting point for a particular action. Obviously over here is the delete that particular action as well. So that would be a way to delete just one of the action items from that particular action list. That wraps up this advanced tutorial on creating and managing action lists. So I hope that was helpful, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video where we're going to dive into more details about creating and managing timers.